It's about goddamn time. We have talked about a lot of high horsepower motorcycles out there. We've covered the Tuono, we've covered the VMAX, we've covered the MT10, we've covered a whole bunch of very, very fast motorcycles. And there has been one that we've been missing for a long, long time. And that right here is the Ducati Diavel. This is a 2011 Ducati Diavel Carbon. And right now, this is my new motorcycle.
But right now is the operative term, because soon this 160 horsepower weapon is going to be going out to one of you. You heard me right, I am not keeping this motorcycle. I partnered with Fan of Them to give this beast away, and what better bike to launch a giveaway with than Ducati's one-of-a-kind muscle cruiser. Fan of Them is a veteran-owned company whose sole goal is to support channels and help them grow. By getting entered to win, you guys are directly helping me make more content on cooler bikes and win those same bikes. It's literally a win-win. So here's how this works. Click that link down in the description below or go to fanofthem.com/spite and grab a limited edition piece of merch. It's exclusive to this giveaway, and once it's gone, it's gone. Your chance to get entered to win ends November 10th, 2024 at 11:59 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. You'll be automatically entered to win this iconic muscle bike and piss off all your friends on sport bikes who can't run away from you on a cruiser anymore. Or you could park it next to your buddy on a Harley and look over with that smug sense of satisfaction that comes from knowing that he could dump $40,000 worth of mods into his $25,000 Road Glide and still not touch you in a straight line on a bike from 13 years ago. Click that link down below to get yourself entered to win, and a big thanks to all of y'all for supporting the channel. Now, let's get this beast on the road.
All right, we start this first ride off, and I think one of the best places to take a Diavel, and that's a straight line. This thing is so much fun to ride. Oh my God. Oh, okay. Let's settle up. You're gonna notice that I don't have the 360 camera today. I do have it over on the side there, but somebody forgot to put a card in it. I don't know who that was. Probably this guy. Anyway, the Diavel's a really interesting bird. I'm gonna do a full, month-long review on this thing later on down the line. But what makes this thing unique is it's unlike any other Ducati. And you'll hear me say that a handful of times whenever I'm talking about this, because when you look at Ducati's lineup, they're very sporty motorcycles, right? Even the Multistrada is a very sporty bike. They're designed to be basically the bleeding edge. They're designed to go racing because that's all Ducati can think about. But what's it like on the highway? It's shockingly comfortable. It's a little bit, it's weird because I feel like I'm sitting inside the motorcycle. This thing, the tank is up and around, like it's at my belly button, and the rear butt shelf is way up on my back. I mean, I'm in the pocket on this motorcycle. And that makes sense once you start putting the power down, because you need to be held in place. It's actually very pleasant in its power delivery when you want it to be, but when you don't and you're just getting savage with it, you have to have that butt shelf, otherwise you're gonna slide right off the back of this thing. Now, is this the smoothest ride on the highway? Not really. I mean, my torso is very smooth. The seat is very comfortable. But here's probably the least interesting place to put the Diavel. There's a lot of buzz in the handlebars. You know, I'm getting decent gas mileage. Yeah, it can go the distance, it doesn't have cruise control, but you can add it. You can get an electronic tune that has cruise control built in. This is not a cruiser, and yet it's one of the most fun cruiser style motorcycles out there. Okay, now we got to pull over and we got to talk specs, because this has some really unique numbers, especially the price.
Diving on in, this thing has an 1199cc V-twin, not an L-twin. Shut up, Ducati people, it's a V-twin. You're just being pretentious. And this thing claims to make 162 horsepower and 94 foot-pounds of torque. And it is very proud of that 162 number, because in sport and touring, it actually says 162 high or 162 low. Those are the two throttle maps. You actually have an urban, which is like 100 horsepower, but it is very, very proud of its 162 number. And that's not the only number it should be proud of. This thing has a 456-pound dry weight, so let's call it close to 470 pounds, which makes it one of the lightest cruisers on the market. It's insane how light this thing is and how much power it's putting down, which makes it really interesting because it's not really a cruiser. It's a very confused motorcycle, but in a very delicious way. And we'll talk about that more when we get into the Twisties. This thing's got fully adjustable suspension, big ass Brembos, and I mean, obviously a ton of power to back it up. But one of the things that's kind of weird about this motorcycle, and I mentioned it while we were out on the highway, is the seating position, because it's not what you would expect. For a bike that is as big as it is, this is a physically large motorcycle, I feel just a hair cramped. I'm totally comfortable. I can make this work, but I would like to be able to move a little bit forward and a little bit backwards on this thing. But the seat scoop is so aggressive that I really am just planted in place. Now, I have sat on one of these motorcycles with the Ducati Performance seat, which is taller and a little bit longer, and that is the seat for any tall rider. And another thing that's odd is these pegs, they're not where you would expect from a sporty motorcycle. They're not quite Harley chair pegs, which are probably about right here. They're a little bit back behind the knee, but they're not back here where you would expect from a sport bike. So it's a lot more relaxed than you would expect from a bike that says Ducati on the side of the tank. And then pairing that with its 30.3-inch seat height, it does feel a little bit more compact. And again, that's why I would recommend, if you're a taller rider, do take a look at that performance seat. Now, this isn't a full review. I will be doing a full review later down the line after I've had this thing for about a month and before we're ready to give it away, because I really want to let my thoughts percolate on this thing, because it's such a unique bike. There really isn't another one like this. But I do have some things I want to shout out, some of my favorite and least favorite things on this motorcycle. First of all, the looks. This could be polarizing. I have seen some people dislike the Diavel's shape. They find it kind of bulbous and not the usual sleek, slender look that you normally get from a Ducati, and I get that. But for what it is, I think it's got a ton of curb appeal. Between the single-sided swing arm, the massive fat rear tire, and the big tank and long looks to it, it looks like a sporty, super fast cruiser, and that's what it's designed to be. The second thing going along with the looks is the sound on this motorcycle. I'm not usually the kind of guy who's out there shouting about big, loud motorcycles being awesome. I tend to like a more muted, kind of stock plus exhaust, something like the homologated exhausts you see from Termignoni. I really like the sound of those. They give you a little bit more grunt, but the works on this thing with the tune, it is the only motorcycle I've heard that sounds like this. When it gets to about 6,000 or 7,000 RPM, you hear this change in the exhaust note, and it starts to scream. It's so unique to this motorcycle, and I've never heard it from another bike. Another thing that you have to love about the Diavels, especially the first generation, is you can get these things for shockingly cheap. The amount of dollars per horsepower that you get with a Diavel is through the roof. I paid $6,000 for this bike. Now, the reason why this thing was so cheap goes into one of the things that's a bit of a bummer about having Ducatis around. They are hard to work on if you don't know what you're doing. And by going through the forums on the Ducati Diavel pages, the amount of people who don't know what they're doing is staggering. When I picked this bike up, it was putting down maybe 80, maybe 100 horsepower. It was running so rich that you could smell the unburned gas coming out of the pipe. It was nuts. And I have spent a week working on and tweaking this motorcycle because stuff is hard to get to on this thing. To get to the rear spark plug, you have to take off the entire gas tank. So that's these panels, this panel, the gas tank cover, and then you have to pull it back and you have just enough room to get a tool in to get the rear spark plug out. They are a pain in the butt to work on, but you don't have to work on them so long as you treat them right. You do have to do the oil changes. It's not a Honda. You do have to replace the spark plugs. It's not a Honda. You do have to oil and change the chain. It's not a Honda. This thing needs work, but when it's working, it is so worth it. And honestly, my buddy has 27,000 miles on his 2012 Ducati Diavel, and he beats the tar out of it. And it just keeps working. These are reliable motors, so long as you take care of them. But we've talked about this thing on the highway. We've talked about the power. We've talked about what I love and don't love about it. Now we gotta go put it in the Twisties, because that's shockingly exactly where this bike belongs.
Now, I think one of the interesting hallmarks of a bike that considers itself a muscle cruiser is they tend to be considered something of a brawl in a corner. But the beauty is the Diavel, it handles really well. It's so much lighter than those other bikes. And one of the interesting things about the power band on this bike is it's not vicious. You'd kind of expect 170 horsepower as it's sitting right now, because this thing is tuned. You'd kind of expect 170 to feel a little bit more difficult around a corner, but the thing is this doesn't. It's really an effortless motorcycle to ride, which is surprising because it's named the Diavel. It's the devil. I mean, it's kind of antithetical, right, to the ethos of the motorcycle. Like just going around these Twisties is it's easy. It's point and shoot. And despite this thing kind of having that sort of raked out cruisery front end, it dips in very well. And I would have expected something with a 240 section rear tire to handle a bit funny, honestly. I would expect it to feel maybe slow and cumbersome side to side, but because I have so much tire in the rear, it feels like I have kind of infinite grip. Like it just keeps leaning and leaning, and it's fine. Let's just do a 30 roll from second gear. I don't know how fast I went. I wasn't looking, but I do know that the wheel kept coming up on me just a little bit. That front wheel was lifting up, which I'm all here for, man. Feeling the handlebars get light is something so unique on a bike like this, in the seating position that I'm currently in. It's just so different. It's easy to ride. A lot of big power bikes are difficult. This is not difficult. There are very few V-twins that are like this. The Super Duke is the only other one that I can think of. Not the new one, but I'm talking like the 2014 Super Duke. That one's a 1290, so it's a little bit bigger, but It's the only V-twin that has the character to actually be eminently rideable while also just having an obscene amount of power. Like, they're easy bikes to ride. They're so easy. And then when you get on the gas, you realize how much you have on your right hand. You're not going full plaid, I will say that. It's not like, you know, a Tuono V4. That is probably the most viciously fast motorcycle I've ridden in a straight line from like 40 to 140. It is so fast and so aggressive. But this thing is right there with it, man. But to the point about this being mellow and eminently rideable, let's actually drop it down into urban, right? So urban mode is making, I think, roughly 100 horsepower is what they claim. And one of the unique things about the way Ducati does their throttle maps is it actually does change the power output. I've put Ducatis on the dyno before, and they do significantly change the fueling. It's not just the throttle map. And like right through here, this bike is benign, positively benign. It's been a few years since I've ridden a Diavel. I forgot how good this platform is. Man, it's nuts. 100 horsepower mode on this. It still feels really fast. But then, you know, we pop it up into sport mode, and there's another 60 horsepower on top. Wow! Oh man, I wish I was wearing a half helmet so you could see the giant smile on my face. I know how it sounds. I really do. Oh yeah, Spike got a bike that he's giving away that he really likes. Of course he really likes it because he wants to give it away, and he wants to get a bunch of entries sold. No, that's really not. Slow down. Go f yourself, sign. No, I did not decide to like this bike because I'm giving it away. I gave it away because I knew this was a platform I was gonna dig. It is so right up my alley. It is right up my alley. Powerful, comfortable, great brakes, great handling, awesome looks. I've really grown to like how this thing looks. I've been seeing my buddy's Diavel for years now, and I think it's one of those things where it's an acquired taste. It took me a while. It took me a while to start to love it. Oh man. No, I wish I could enter to win this motorcycle. No, I'm gonna buy one. I'm gonna buy one. Yeah, after I give this one away, I'm gonna buy one, and it's just gonna be my bike. This is awesome. This is such an awesome bike. And remember, I am giving it away with the folks over at Fan of Them. So click that link down in the description below. You pick yourself up a limited edition piece of merch, and you will get automatically entered to win this bike right here. And it will actually come straight from me. I'm not going to be delivering it unless you're in Texas. Then I can probably deliver it. But, you know, it'll leave my garage and show up at yours. And it is a really great way to support the channel. I'm really glad these folks reached out because they're going to make it so that I have more time with some unique motorcycles. I can give you some better content. And it's a great way to support the channel if you don't want to check out the Patreon or whatever. So yeah, click that link down in the description below. Get yourself entered to win this beast, please, because otherwise, I don't know. I'm just gonna keep it. I can't keep it. No, that would be wrong. I can't keep it. I think that would be illegal. But yeah, I want it. I want it so bad. I'll catch you guys in the next one. See you later.